Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our mind. Hi, I'm Joel Landy, and welcome to Songs of Freedom. This is a show that celebrates the dignity of human struggle with its many faces and its many, many voices. I'm really happy to be here tonight. We have a very special show for you. Somebody that I admire a great deal is with us tonight. Let's see, what can I tell you about Faith Petric? She was born in a log cabin in 1915 in Idaho. A lot of people think that she's one of the more important players in the music labor movement over the past, I don't know how many years. And here she is on the show with us tonight. Faith, welcome to Songs of Freedom.
Well, thank you so much for letting me be here. I'm just delighted to have a chance to be on your show.
So, the hard thing on this show tonight is to know where to start getting involved with finding out about your life. Now, there are some people who don't know who Faith Petric is, and one of the reasons I'm glad you're here is that, well, we get to talk about where you've been and your involvement in the many struggles that have taken place over the past few years. Where should we start? Where did music start becoming important to you?
Well, music started early in my life, practically, I guess at the time I was born. In that log cabin, as you say, which was on what is known as a homestead. I won't stop to define that. People can look it up. My father was a farmer, a carpenter, a school teacher, and he was also a Methodist minister. And so I was in church probably from the week I was born. I'm the youngest of four children, all four of us born in that log cabin, which was made out of trees that were cut on that homestead land. So I suppose I was singing as soon as I could talk, or before, because there were all these great hymns that I remember to this day. There were things like "Bringing in the Sheaves" and "Work for the Night is Coming," and things that when I was 4 or 5 years old, I knew them, and I still know an awful lot of them now. And I could understand them. Work for the night is coming, because that's the way life was. You worked all day, and at night when it was really dark was when you got to stop. And bringing in the sheaves, they were literally sewed by hand. The grain was sewed by hand and was cut and put into stocks, and then the sheaves were thrown into a wagon, and the horses pulled them on into the barn. But then there were some songs like "Let the Lower Lights Be Burning," and songs about sailors. Those I couldn't figure out. I'd never even seen a lake at that time in my life.
So when did you start discovering lakes and other things? And
well, my family moved a lot, and from the log cabin, I was probably there only a couple of years, and then we moved down onto what was called the Flats, and Whiskey Creek was the border of our farm where the stock went to get their water. The Whiskey Creek flowed into Orfino Creek, and Orfino Creek flowed into this Clearwater River. The Clearwater flowed into the Snake flowed into the Columbia. And all of that actually was just within just a few miles. But besides the church songs, we also had in the house an old pump organ. You know, you pedal with your feet and play up here. And they were what I have learned to call, in a way, heart songs. That I find them more and more coming into the folk field now. Things like Juanita and The Old Oaken Bucket and Grandfather's Clock. So I grew up with both of these kinds of songs. And it was something that was always going on with me. See, we had no television. We had no radios. I remember when we got a phone. It was a big deal. And there were very few cars. I don't know when I first got into a car. And I probably had never seen a flush toilet until I was 7 or more. I mean, 1915, 1920s, it's still, I realize now, kind of what people think of as pioneer stuff. And then the next songs, when I was about 9, my brother, one next to me, and I, for some reason, we got into cowboy songs. And we both just loved them. Now, where we found them and how we got the tunes, I really don't know. But to this day, I sing a lot of cowboy songs, and I just love them. It's songs about real people and real things and the work that they did and the things that happened.
Would you like to sing one?
Well, okay, I could. Um, my favorite actually was collected by Carl Sandburg. It's called Colorado Trail. Do you know that at all? It's a great song. And Lee Hayes added a couple of verses. But there again, while it's a sentimental song, I suppose you'd say in the whale, to me, almost every song is almost a political song. It's telling you something. This is telling you about the work that the people did, and it also the fragility, if I'm saying that right, of life at that time in the early times. Cowboys didn't live all that long unless they got out of it, and women didn't live that long either as pioneers. So it was like this. Eyes like a morning star, cheeks like a rose. Laura was a pretty girl, everybody knows. Weep, all ye little rains, wail, winds wail, all along, along, along the Colorado Trail. Laura was a laughing girl, joyful in the day. Laura was a darling girl, now she's gone away. Weep, all ye little rains, wail, winds wail, all along, along, along the Colorado Trail. 15 years she graced the earth, and all life was good. But now all life is buried beneath a cross of wood. Weep, all ye little rains, wail, winds wail, all along, along, along the Colorado Trail. Ride all the lonely night, ride all the day. Keep that herd a-moving on its way. Weep, all ye little rains, wail, winds wail, all along, along, along the Colorado Trail. The wind's coming down the gulch, the night birds cry alarm. Wish I'd stayed in Abilene, nice and dry and warm. Weep, all ye little rains, wail, winds wail, all along, along, along the Colorado Trail. That was my favorite song for so many years. That I used game, and then you play these funny games, about what would you do if you could only sing one more song the rest of your life. That would have been the one for many years that I would have picked. I loved it so much.
So let's fast forward a couple of years. Now it's in the 1930s, and this country has a depression. Where were you, and what was influencing you at the time?
Well, I was still in grade school when the depression actually started. No, I wasn't either. I was already in high school. And one of the things that happened in particular was that, well, people were poor. People were starving to death in the United States by the thousands. But here you are out in the country. We were living in I was living in high school. I was going in Moscow, Idaho. And my mother was a school teacher at that time, and she didn't get a school because schools were closing all over the place. And we rented a little house there in Moscow. And I had an uncle who had a trucking business, and he went out in the country and got some wood. I don't know if he cut it down or what. And my brother got a job ushering at the local theater. He got 50 cents a night. My mother babysat and did sewing for people. We went out in the country and scavenged. We took potatoes, because they were just lying there. You could glean them. And it was a tiny house, but we rented the back porch, which was open, to two college boys. And they would buy a sack of flour, and my mother would make bread, and they'd get half the bread, and we'd get half the bread. But I was in high school glee club. That's where my music was. But that isn't all. There were other songs that you just somehow knew. I don't know where they came from sometimes. Like Clementine. I remember Clementine was there because my brother's a Boy Scout, and the Boy Scouts made up a verse that said, "Came a Boy Scout to the rescue with a yard of scrimmage line, tied it safely to a post hole, then he rescued Clementine." And then they would go on and have him go out with the little sister. But I know Clementine. Abdul Bulbul Amir was a early song.
Charles King does that one on one of his tapes now. I heard that song for the first
yeah,
time
well,
maybe 2 years ago.
actually, that's a song that's kind of important to me in a way. One of my earliest recollections, my brother and I used to, my father, one time I lived at my father's house, and my mother and father were separated. And we would sing that song, and we'd go down and make swords out of lath. And I wasn't ever supposed to wear pants, and I did when my father wasn't there. And here my brother and I, down in the barn, playing with the sword, singing Abdullah Bulbul Amir. And he came and caught us. Boy, did I get it. It's the only time in his life he ever gave me a whop, was going up the back stairs, get in there and get a dress on. So that's quite a memory for that song. It was actually written by a man named Percy French, an Irishman, who wrote it when he was in Trinity College for one of their musical programs. So he became a great, he wrote what we know as the Mountains of Mourne, which is to actually a traditional Irish tune, but he used it as others have. That's one of his most famous songs, but it's somewhat different. His original, it got picked up over here and recorded by somebody who changed it a bit. And in this country, we have it just a little bit distorted, but I got to know a cousin of Percy French's and got a couple of books of his songs and things, so I looked into his history and really enjoyed that an awful lot. But you were asking me fast forward to when I became conscious of a different world.
Yeah.
Well, I was raised not only very religiously, which in a way has come in handy. I don't personalize it anymore as I was taught to do then. But there are things you learn about being your brother's keeper that I think had an effect. I think stuck with me. I think was part of my radicalization, which, as you already suggested, came during the 30s. There wasn't just the Depression with songs like Hallelujah and A Bum and many, many, many songs. But there was also Spain, and I became conscious of Spain in college. I started college, I graduated in 37, so I guess I started about 33. And there was the Depression, there was Spain, there was union organization, there was a big CIO drive. First picket line I ever walked on in my life was against Hearst Seattle PI, the Seattle Post Intelligencer, I think was the name of it, and the newspaper guild was on strike and was picketing it. And I was going over in the summer school in Seattle University, and we'd go down and walk around in the rain with the picket just because it was a thing to do. And not only that, there was this Dust Bowl. So all of these tremendous things. I was probably maybe a sophomore in college when literally a balloon appeared over my head. Just this idea was just like that, like you see in cartoons. And what it said inside was, "They've been lying to you." Because here I thought, this was the best of all possible worlds. The United States had never done anything wrong. All the people you elected were noble and wonderful, and within a few years they would pass some good bills and there'd be no more problems in this country at all. Well, I say that thing, wait a minute, they've been lying to you. That's all lies. This isn't the best of all possible world, and everything isn't all wonderful. And this country hasn't always been wonderful and marvelous. Nor, may I say as an aside, does it continue to be, or has it ever gotten to be?
In fact, a lot of people were in Seattle protesting recently.
Yes, they were, weren't they? I wish I had been there. I didn't make it. missed a good one tonight. So,
There'll be other chances.
yeah, all of those things radicalized me completely. That I had to make it right. And talk about optimism. It's just like when I was about 11 or 12, I thought I'd learn every song in the world. I really did. I thought, because I didn't think there were that many. You know, little towns in northern Idaho, you don't think there are that many songs. And they were so easy to learn for me at that time. Well, I thought, once I became a radical, I thought, well, by the time I'm 30, everything will be done. It'll all be taken care of. There won't be anything more to do. And that, again, proves not to be true. I just thought, once you explain it to people, how much better it would be if everybody had medical care, food, and housing, a place to live. There weren't any prejudice against people. But
were you playing back in those days, or were you listening and learning and getting involved in some other?
I was listening and learning. It was actually the time I left the Northwest and went down to San Francisco before I started playing a great deal. Now, I got down there, I graduated from college in '37. I worked for a year in Seattle. I was a clerk in a bookstore. I made $16 a week, which was literally more money than I knew what to do with. So I saved money, and I decided to go around the world.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when I first stopped was going to be San Francisco, and I would work there and save some money, and then I'd go to Japan, you know, just work my way around the world. But I got to San Francisco and fell in love with it. It just was my kind of place. And I got a guitar, and I did start then singing around. I'd sing at parties and fundraisers for Spain and so on and so forth. And all the good causes activities. I learned a song so easily then. It was just, you hear one and it was mine, you know.
You want to play one?
I remember a party once where somebody, as a fundraiser, if anybody could do a song, think of a song that I didn't know, well then if I knew it, they had to put in 50 cents or something. That was the way we were raising money. What would be a good one for, well, Spain was important, but the Union, I tell you, one of the best songs, the Union song. Now this is a song that I suppose practically everybody knows. I was thinking of Solidarity.
Solidarity.
Although the Harry Bridges is another, it was one of the first Union songs I learned, actually. It was a song about Harry Bridges. You know, they tried to deport him.
Right.
And see if I can remember it. Let me tell you of Sailor Harry Bridges was his name, an honest Union leader that the bosses tried to flame. He left home in Australia to sail the seas around. He sailed across the ocean to land in Frisco town. Oh, the FBI is worried, the bosses, they are scared. They can't deport 6 million and they know. And we're not gonna let them send Harry over the sea. We'll fight for Harry Bridges and build a CIO. There was only a company union, the bosses had their way. A worker had to stand in line for a lousy $1 a day. Then up spoke Harry Bridges, us workers gotta get wise. Our wives and kids will starve to death if we don't get organized. Oh, the FBI is worried, the bosses, they are scared. They can't deport 6 million men they know. And we're not gonna let them send Harry over the sea. We'll fight for Harry Bridges and build a CIO. Well, there was only a company union, the bosses had their way. A worker had to stand in line for a lousy $1. I said that's when I already did it.
Yes, but I don't know that.
They said there's only one way to get that contract signed. And all around the waterfront they drew their picket line. They called it Bloody Thursday, the 4th day of July. 100 men were wounded and 2 were left to die. Oh, the FBI is worried, the bosses, they are scared. They can't deport 6 million men, they know. And they're not going to let them send Harry over the sea. We'll fight for Harry Bridges and build a CIO. Oh, we must try to bribe him, the shipping bosses said. And if he won't accept a bribe, we'll say that he's a red. And so they brought a trial to deport him over the sea. The judge said he's an honest man, I've got to set him free. Oh, the FBI is worried, the bosses, they are scared. They can't deport 6 million, and they know. And we're not gonna let them send Harry over the sea. We'll fight for Harry Bridges and build a CIO. My little
I gotta get your, hold on, keep the camera running. We got it. There we go.
I knocked it off with the guitar, I think, when I was putting it over
It
my
must have been the
head.
song.
Yeah. Well, that's a good sample of the times, I think. Yeah, I remember I got to sing that at Harry Bridges' 60th birthday. As a matter of fact, the guys, they asked me down there having a big party for
So,
him.
what was the year that you'd be singing that song? Or is it with the end of the 30s now?
Well, yeah. It will be when I learned it.
So that brings us into the war years. What were you doing during World War II?
You'll never guess. I didn't go on to Japan a lot because I got a job at the Farm Security Administration working with the migrants as they came in. I worked in that program. That was under Roosevelt, under a man named Taylor. Marvelous program. And that was all that Woody Guthrie wrote all those songs about. We might think of one of his if we have time. But then they always treated the migrants terribly, as you know from Woody's songs. But once there was a war, all the farm workers went in to work in the shipyards. There was nobody to bring in the crops, and they imported Mexican workers and paid them well. And I worked in that program for a couple of years. Now, of course, they're treating
Never
them
learned that in grade school.
I wonder why. Isn't that surprising?
Yeah.
Such history of the people you don't get in school, but you do get it in the songs. You really do get it in the songs. I think that's one of the greatest things about folk music, is that's where a lot of our true history is. Anyway, what did I do? I worked then for a year or two with the Braceros program, and I'd been a couple of years with the Migratory Workers program, which I loved. I quit and got a ride to New York with a friend, and I worked in Hoboken's Sun Shipbuilding Company in Hoboken, New Jersey.
Hoboken.
For about a year.
Wow.
That's what I did, was work there, and then I people said, "Oh, you go to New York, you'll never leave, because that's where everything is." Well, I'm a Westerner. There's just something about being a Westerner. You have to read Wallace Spengler, I think, to really understand that. I want to go home. I want to be in the West. So I went back to San Francisco. And then the next important thing that happened was that I had a child. I still have her. As a matter of fact, I have a grandchild now.
Yeah.
But that kept me quite busy for that time. But here I was in New York, and the nice thing about New York, the friends I had here, the people I'd known who'd come here from the West, were the people who were involved in the folk music thing. So I met Bess Hawes, and I met the parties. The people who would be at the parties would be Leadbelly, and Sonny and Terry and Josh White, and so on. And I was still very shy. I couldn't sing a song in front of those people, because they were so real and so wonderful. But that kept me in my interest in the music and in learning the songs. My first knowledge, in a sense, of what might be called, was eventually called folk music. When I was in college, Carl Sandburg came and sang there. And to me, that was a important thing in my college life, because it was here was somebody who spoke my language, and it was just very wonderful. So when I went back, after my daughter was born, I went back to work. I just learned songs. I had to drive to work, and I'd figure I'd learn a song each. I'd learn 2 a day. I could learn one on the way and one on the way back.
That takes up commitment. Let me tell everyone, you're watching Songs of Freedom. My name is Joe Landy, and it's a pleasure to be speaking with Faith Petric. You know, we've been on for about 26 minutes. You have like 3 minutes left.
Already.
Yeah.
Well,
We're going to pick this up, though. There will be another show. You won't see it right away, folks. You're going to have to wait a week, but I get a chance to continue this conversation after the camera goes off of us. Why don't you sing a song to take us out?
well, okay. I think Family is a good song. One of the things I'm involved with is the Freedom Song Network, and this is our sort of a hymn. All of us are members, all of us are members, all of us are members of the family. And I bid you to remember as you carry out your plan that all of us are members of the family of woman and man. Now some are the color of peaches and cream, and some are pumpkin pie. Some are the color of banana nut bread, and some of Russian rye. But whatever color you happen to be, it's plain as the back of my hand that all of us are members of the family of woman and man. I'll let you know the chorus. All of us are members, all of us are members, all of us are members of the family. And I bid you to remember as you carry out your plan that all of us are members of the family of woman and man. Now, some of us are born near the North and South Pole, where the low temperatures are mean, but most of us appeared in more temperate zones, somewhere in between. But wherever you happen to squeeze out, whatever the name of that land, all of us are members of the family of woman and man. Yes, all of us are members, all of us are members, all of us are members of the family. And I bid you to remember as you carry out your plan that all of us are members of the family of woman and man. Now, let me see. Some are built like cucumbers, and some of us are built like pears. Some are smooth like dolphins and eels, and some are hairy like bears. But whatever your shape or your color, whatever all of us are members of the family, woman and man. Oh, all of us are members, all of us are members.
Good night, folks.
All of us are members of the family. And I bid you to remember as you carry out your plan that all of us are members of the family of woman and man. Now some are attracted to the opposite sex, and some prefer their own kind. Some keep both options open, and some are monastically inclined. But whatever your orientation, whatever your libido demands, all of us are members of the family of woman and man. Yes, all of us are members, all of us are members, all of us are members of the family. And I bid you to remember as you carry out your plan that all of us are members of the family of woman and man. Sweet Earth keeps getting smaller. There's no place to run to. Don't you sometimes wonder what the family's gonna come to? May peace be with you wherever you go and wherever you happen to land, and to all members of the family of woman and man, because all of us are members, all of us are members, all of us are members of the family. And I bid you to remember as you carry out your plan that all of us are members of the family of woman and man.
Thank you, Faith.